What's I? Oh, Nathan, it's actually like it's got a small hole on it, and you're supposed to stick it into the frosting and pull up, and then it makes like a long string. I don't know. Like I said, I kind of know how to do it, but I'm not very good at it. So welcome, my friends. First, let me apologize for my voice. I know it sounds really attractive right now, and I apologize. I am feeling so much better than yesterday, and I want to thank so many of you who sent me the nicest get better soon emails. Thank you so much. I know my voice sounds rough, but please go with me. I promise I really am feeling better than I sound. And today, I know, excuse me, Monday and Tuesday, we were talking about motivation. What gets us moving? Is it something inside of us? Is it something outside of us? What gets us to do the things we need to do? So today we're going to be focusing on stress and anxiety because this is something that I'm sure will come as no shock to any of my friends, can kind of destroy motivation. And so understanding what it is, how it can impact us, and what we can do to cope can really be huge when it comes to, again, treating patients, but also just focusing and coping with our daily lives. I mean, the fun we're having today to try to get into Jigsaw, that could be described as a little bit of stress, right? So let's go ahead and talk about what we can do today. I hope you like that little curly-haired Rex hamster, or is he a gerbil? I can't remember, but that is an actual breed of hamster or gerbil. They're called Rexes, and it makes their fur stick out because it's really curly. But I just thought it was kind of funny. It fit this theme here. So today we're going to be looking at the difference between daily stress and anxiety and a stress or anxiety disorder. And forgive me if I get lost for a second because Zoom's telling me it doesn't like my Wi-Fi again. And that's really important because we all have stress and anxiety. No big deal. But having a disorder, that's a whole other ballgame. And that's something we need to know the difference between. We can also talk, we're going to analyze appropriate coping methods for stress and anxiety. Sure, I can talk. And we're going to consider how we approach different situations in our lives that can create stress and anxiety for us. So sometimes kind of like recognizing a situation and saying, oh, wait, I can choose how I react here. That can be a big one in how we can control that. I'm just going to ask, and I'm sorry to bug you guys, can you all hear me? I just want to make sure I haven't gone. Yes, okay. Sometimes we're quiet because we're listening, which I absolutely love, but I want to make sure I'm not like gone again. All right. So what is stress? If I asked you what is stress, what would you tell me? What is stress to you? Go ahead.
Ooh.
Okay, the feeling of being overwhelmed. Welcome, Deja. Charlize, absolutely. What else? What could stress be? Good morning. Glad you made it since Jigsaw was not working with us. Like when I say stress, what do you guys think of? If you can't give me a definition, feel free to just tell me what comes to your mind. Jigsaw. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. An inability to adapt. Okay. Or being unable to adapt. Sure. Tension. Oh, that's a good one, Tristan. Yeah. No, that's okay. I knew what you were going for there. Don't you hate that? You're like, that's not how that sounded a moment ago. Yeah, these are all important things to look at. Oh, I hate that. You're freaked out. You feel like you're going nuts. You aren't really sure what's going on. And that just adds even more, right, Nathan? Oh, gosh, yeah. So when we say stress in psychology, what we're referring to is the arousal of one's mind and body in response to the pressures or forces placed upon them. So that's the thing we want to think about. But when I say arousal, it's important to keep in mind that what we mean is that fight or flight sympathetic nervous system is kicking in. That's what we're talking about there. And any pressure or force is referred to as a stressor. But is all stress bad? What do you guys think? Okay, some of it can motivate us, Nathan. Charlize, you agree? Well, you're absolutely correct. And you've probably figured out by now working with me, you're like, yeah, there's got to be a yes to this, right? We are used to what we call, when we say stress, we're typically referring to what's called distress, which is a negative form of stress. You know, for example, when my kids are all yelling too loud and I'm trying to drive and it's like, oh, would you guys stop? That's a form of distress. Or Jigsaw deciding that it's not going to let us in. That's a form of distress. But as Nathan so correctly pointed out, we also have a different type of stress when, for example, like a workout or something called eustress. And this is positive stress. This pushes you to do better. Have you ever been in a situation and someone says, oh, you can't do that? And you're like, excuse me? Oh, I can do that. Like you almost push yourself harder because you were told you couldn't. Yes, it's a joke in my house to never tell me I can't do something because I can usually do it. Because of that, right? And it pushes me. Competing in a sports game, winning a video game, working out. Can you think of any other positive stressors that you could have in your life that push you? Yeah, Charlize, like if you like a schoolwork and you're like, ooh, I want to do this project. Nathan, deadlines, absolutely. Pushing yourself to meet those deadlines. Sometimes I work better. I know this is, I'm not supposed to say this, but I work better the closer to the deadline than the further from the deadline. Like my focus sharpens. Deja, yeah, applying for scholarships. That is a bit of you stress, right? I mean, it's not always easy, but you want to push yourself to get the best. Same for you, Tristan. Yeah, I know we're not supposed to admit that, but it is true, and I would be lying if I didn't admit it. So what I wanted to do now is to talk about anxiety. And unfortunately, I can't have you guys click on my lovely little line like I was going to, but this is kind of a continuum of anxiety, if you will, going from the chill side of things all the way to the side of things. And I was curious where you put yourself on the continuum. Hey, Caleb. And by the way, I have muted some people's mics, but feel free to unmute them if you want to talk. So where would you put yourself on this continuum? Do you see yourself over here next to the puppy? Do you see yourself more in the swirling anxiety tornado? Or do you find yourself somewhere in the middle? I know, my friend, I'm sorry. I sound so much worse. I actually feel 100% better. So Caleb, you're on the tornado side of things? Okay, Charlize, so if you're saying the middle is 0 and the right is positive, you're kind of going towards this end of things? Tristan, you just sit right in the middle there? Okay. Hey, Jazz, we're talking about where you fit on this continuum from being relaxed and the puppy who's chilling to the anxiety tornado here. So Nathan, you find yourself more over here? Yeah, I have to admit I'm a little more of an anxious person, so I probably bounce between the middle up. You're pretty chill right now, Deja. Yeah, you made it in class, right? You're where you need to be. Yeah, Tristan, I agree. It's hard to do, but it's a good thing to try to do. And we're going to talk about some coping. Click. Oh, sorry. Always panicking. Oh no, Jazz, I'm sorry. So you're finding yourself over here with Nathan. Oh, and it's a none. Select a video to share. I'm sorry. Well, anxiety is a pervasive, let me say that again, pervasive feeling of dread, apprehension, and impending disaster. It's just something's wrong. You don't necessarily know what's wrong, but it's wrong. And it's, kind of driving you crazy. Hey, Maddie, welcome. So, there's something going on, and this feeling tends to underlie stress, but this is really important. Stress and anxiety are not the same thing all the time, nor is one worse than the other. Okay? Stress and anxiety, everybody can have them. They can have a disorder as well. But it's really important to know. I have a lot of students who'll tell me stress is when it's not that bad and anxiety is when it's really bad. That's not the case. You can have a low level of anxiety. You can have a low level of stress. You can have a high level of stress and a high level of anxiety. So they are technically different things, and one is not worse than the other. Does that make sense? Because I see people who want to say, you saw yourself on the screen? Yeah, I was just going through and making sure we could all hear. But I want to make sure we understand there is a difference between stress and anxiety, but that both can be low levels and both can be high levels. That's okay. Don't worry. When you first come in, it's on for most people. And so I just go through and mute because you don't know that. And I just didn't want to embarrass anybody. Hey guys, can I ask a question on the gay finger guns? I don't know what that means. Um, is that like to be happy? Okay, because I just want to make sure that it's not something that could be misconstrued or make anyone feel uncomfortable if they are, if they are gay or lesbian or bi or anything. But if it means like happy, then cool, because that's totally what gay could mean. So I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood what's going on there, and that's all. Thank you for explaining it, Jazz. I just wanted to make sure we were there. Okay, so it's not unusual to have anxiety. We all have it. Today, when I couldn't get into Jigsaw, I definitely had some. um, oh, okay, Jazz. Yeah, no, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that no one did feel that way, but I don't think anyone's trying to be mean or anything like that. Thank you, sweetie. I know you have a lot of respect for your classmates. So, what I was planning on doing was having you guys talk about the difference between daily stress and anxiety and a disorder. But the way I was planning on having you do it, I can't do because we're not in Jigsaw. So, can anybody tell me what is an example? Oh, okay. Jigsaw lost me again. Hang on. Can you hear me now? Lord love Jigsaw or Zoom. Okay. See if I can get the chat box back. I should have known. I was like, where'd they all go? That should have been my clue, right? Okay, sorry about that. Trying this again. So let me go ahead and, oh, it's recording still. Awesome. Resume recording. Okay, back to this. So I wanted to ask you guys, I had a thing planned to help us see the difference between daily stress and anxiety and disorder, but we're not in Jigsaw, so I can't do it the way I planned. So can anyone think of a type of daily stress and anxiety? Something that would be an example. Okay, Maddie, to you, school is daily stress or anxiety? Okay. Impressing a person you like, Caleb, that might be daily stress and anxiety. So, Charlize, would you say family is just daily stress and anxiety, or does that seem to you to be something more than that? Caleb, same question. Does work seem like daily stress and anxiety or something more? Okay, so sometimes there's stress, sometimes there's not. Okay, Caleb agrees daily. Well, what I was planning to do was to give you guys examples and then have you put them in the correct spot, but not working so well today. So let's try it this way. This is a list of some different types of daily stress and anxiety versus stress or anxiety disorder. So with daily stress and anxiety, yeah, Nathan, oh no, sometimes driving is very stressful some days and not others. I could totally agree. Yeah, people could be daily stress, right? So like you guys said, school, if you know you have a big test coming up and you're feeling really nervous, what happens at the end of that test? No, Caleb, not worth it to talk to deal with that, right? Yeah, that stress goes away, right? Or losing your temper when you're trying to prepare for a stressful event, or a foolish person at work tells you something silly that makes you annoyed. What happens when you're done with it? Yeah, Tristan, it's only there for a bit. Something that's important to consider, guys, is the difference between what makes it daily stress and anxiety or stress or anxiety disorder. Look at this one. Persistent, Lord, I can talk. Persistent, anxious thoughts about everyday things, big or small, for 4 to 6 weeks, even things that don't usually cause anxiety. That's a stress or anxiety disorder. When does this end? Oh, welcome back, Jazz. I'm sorry I got kicked out too. When does this end right here? These persistent, anxious thoughts. They don't, there's not a lot of ending. Yeah, there's not really an end, right? Because for one thing, you don't even know what's causing the anxiety, right? So a lot of times here, I know what's causing my anxiety. It's my test. Here, I have no idea what's causing my anxiety. It is never ending. So the key that I want to point out is with daily stress and anxiety, it ends when the stressor is over and it has a root cause. But with stress or anxiety disorder, it doesn't end unless you get some form of intervention. That could be therapy, that can be medication. And if someone says, what's the cause of your stress or anxiety? You might be saying, I don't know. You might not have a cause, or you might. I mean, I'm not saying there's never a cause, but sometimes you really don't have a cause. After my twins were born, I had postpartum depression and I had postpartum anxiety. Why? I don't know. I mean, I would get anxious about everything. I remember one time getting anxious because I only had 3 forks in the drawer and I was freaking out that I didn't have more forks. And my husband's like, they're all in the dishwasher. And I was totally freaking out about this. I have no idea why, but man, it was causing problems for me. So again, I had to get some assistance. In that case, I did some medication and it helped. And, sometimes people don't realize that there's nothing wrong with getting this assistance because you don't even know what caused it in the first place to be able to end it. So it's like someone said, you need antibiotics when you have a cold. Well, you may need something like this as an antibiotic for anxiety. Yeah, it could be hormones. Absolutely, it could. Also, I wasn't sleeping very much. They're babies, so you don't get a lot of sleep when you have babies. So let's talk about the effect of stress or anxiety disorders. And these are more than what we would say just nerves. For example, a physical sensation, you get that activation of the sympathetic nervous system, and it boosts a hormone called cortisol, which is great short term. But when you have a disorder, that cortisol continues in your system long term, and that's going to wear down your immune system. That's why when you have stress for a while, you tend to get sick or headaches. That's your physical system, that cortisol, it's just wearing it down over time. Caleb, that is exactly what you say. And if you have triplets, you say at least they're not quads. Yes, believe me, I was with a multiples group. We used to do that all the time. Sometimes you can have cognitive issues, unrealistic thoughts. I was so scared to put my little girl, my twins, in the car because I was convinced that we were going to crash every single time. Even if I was just driving to my mom's house, which is actually really close. Even when my husband was driving, he's like one of the best drivers I know. I was convinced of it just because I had these unrealistic thoughts and I felt like I couldn't control anything. You can have an emotional reaction, terror, panic, irritability. Do any of you ever snap when you're feeling really stressed or frustrated? Yeah. Nope, it never did. And knock on wood, I need some wood. Here we go. I hope it never does. Okay, Charlize, maybe more to your family. Yeah, you get kind of emotional. And someone's like, what's wrong with you? And you're like, ugh. If it's daily stress, you can point to it, my test, my whatever. But if it's a stress or anxiety disorder, you may not even be able to point to it. You just know you have it. And that's really frustrating because then you feel frustrated with yourself, like you want to make it better, but you just don't know how. And you can have behavioral coping methods like freezing or becoming even more aggressive. Sometimes you deal with people and it's like they're obnoxiously goofy and they're almost putting it in your face that they're being goofy. That can be a behavioral coping method for stress or anxiety. Not the most fun to deal with. All right, my friends, do you have gas? Anybody? Anybody having a little gas? You can be honest. We're all friends in here. Everybody's like, do I really have to answer that question? Just kidding. I'm not talking about what you think. I'm talking about the general adaptation syndrome, which is our body's stress response in stressful situations. I don't know what you guys were thinking of, but that's what I was talking about. Totally, totally. There, Tristan, I love the honesty. You go, man. You're awesome. Yes. So when we talk about general adaptation syndrome, it has 3 stages, and this is how we react pretty much to all stressors that come our way to varying degrees. The first is the alarm stage, and I'll talk about these stages in a moment. The second is resistance, and the third is exhaustion. Yes, Stasia, when you are stressed, you have general adaptation syndrome, otherwise known as gas. Everybody has this. Although when you're stressed, you may have other forms of gas, and that's a whole other story, right? All right, so let's start by talking about the alarm stage. And this is where your sympathetic nervous system is activating the fight, flight, or freeze reaction. And you have these hormones produced like adrenaline and corticosteroids and cortisol, and they push you to react. So you're either trying to face the challenge, run from the challenge, or you're frozen and you don't know what to do. That's the first stage. That one's pretty common. But the second stage, this is the resistance stage. And it's where your parasympathetic system kicks in and it starts to calm you down. It calms down what is not needed, but it still leaves parts alert so that you can recognize the possible danger. Or, for example, if it's a test, and let's say you're like, okay, I can do this test, and you start thinking, your resistance is shutting down the parts that are keeping you from thinking, but it's helping you to fight to get against the test, to take the test. Blah, 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 sorry. And your last sense, the exhaustion stage. Sometimes, guys, you meet a stressor you simply cannot manage. And when that happens, there is a breakdown in the body physically or psychologically. And when the exhaustion can't be managed any other way, it can lead to a stress or anxiety disorder. So let's see if we can apply these. Do you guys have any questions on these 3? Okay, no worries. Why the cat? Because the cat just looked utterly exhausted and it made me laugh, so I put it in. Sorry, just for my own personal happiness. So let's tell you a story. And I'm going to ask you to tell me what stages that you see in this story. Okay? So here is my story. Do I have a brave person who wants to read the story for us? You don't have to, but maybe I do. Go, Caleb, you rock.
Can't find it. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's 3 a.m. and my family and I are fast asleep. Suddenly, the tornado warning alarm goes off, waking us up. I start yelling for the kids as my husband grabs for his glasses, screaming. The children pile into the bathtub. I grab blankets to put over our heads. We dive into the tube with the kids and turn on the portable weather radio we keep in the bathroom. The flash truck by our side as we listen and wait.
Go, Caleb. Thank you very much for reading that for us. All right, so here we are, 3 a.m. with that tornado warning going on. This is an actual story, by the way, just so you know where I got it from. And we're diving into that tub. What stage of gas do you think we're in here? Deja says alarm. What do you guys think? I'm sure, Caleb, I'm sorry. All right, fight or flight. Charlize agrees. Caleb agrees. This is, oh, hold on, I gotta click the button again. There we go. The alarm stage, you are correct. So you identified that I did get into that fight or flight mode there as we were running for the bathtub with that lovely weather radio. Just the best thing to wake up to, let me just tell you. But then again, I'm really glad we have it. All right. Is anyone brave enough to read the next part? And I will open your mic for you if you feel like it. Go, Maddie. Okay, give me just a second. I gotta scroll to you.
I think I got it. Can you hear me?
Yes, go, girl.
3:15 a.m. We are listening anxiously to the weather radio. The kids and I began to sing songs softly as my husband searches for a way to stretch his legs, still glued to the radio.
Virtual high five. Very nice reading going on here. Thank you, you guys. All right, so what am I seeing here? Which stage are we in now? I know, Caleb, you and Maddie both sound awesome. What makes you think resistance? Oh, Sabiran, you're not hearing? I'm sorry. Let me see if there's something I can do for you. Oh, you know what? I think it's something to do with your network. It's telling me that your network doesn't have access. Yeah, every once in a while Zoom will decide it doesn't like someone's network and it will be a real pain in the neck. I understand. That's the only thing I can suggest. Okay, good. So we've got the parasympathetic system calming you down. Absolutely, he's stretching his legs, trying to calm down a little bit, but he's still focused, right? The kids and I are singing, trying to kind of calm ourselves down. That is resistance. Excellent. All right, anybody feeling brave enough to read the last part? Go ahead, Nathan. Let me know if you need me to open up your mic.
Did I just unmute myself? I can't tell.
You did. Go, my friend.
Okay, cool. All right, 3:30 a.m. The tornado watch has passed, and we untangle ourselves from the tub. The kids drag themselves to bed. I tell my husband we'll deal with the blankets in the morning. Yanking up the covers, I'm thankful we weren't, and he falls asleep.
No snoring sounds there. It's okay. Yes. So the tornado watch is over. We pull ourselves out. What stage am I in there? Clearly, since I couldn't even be bothered to finish the sentence, right? Yes, a little exhaustion going on. Guys, these never happen in any other order. They always happen in this order. First, we're alarmed, then we resist, then we have exhaustion. And that's why sometimes when you're done with a stressful situation, you're like, whew, and you're kind of like, man, I could take a nap right now. It always happens, but the degree of it, like for example, in this case, we went to sleep, but the degree of it can determine whether or not it can lead to something more serious. So a simple situation generally just makes us feel like taking a nap or just sitting on the couch for a few minutes. a more intense situation can lead to a disorder over time. No, Caleb, absolutely. That exhaustion, the music kind of brings you some peace and relaxation. Sure. Anybody else have a different way of handling the exhaustion? That's so cool. So, Maddie, sometimes you feel like you go straight from alarm into exhaustion, but that split second where everything got calmed down, that was resistance. It's so sometimes all the stages are always there, but sometimes it's like they blend into each other. So, like, for example, if you're walking down the hall and someone jumps out and goes, boo, and you go, I can't believe you did that to me. You've gone from alarm to resistance and exhaustion really fast. Does that make sense? Welcome, my friend. I'm sorry. I'm just making sure we can all hear then. Oh, absolutely. Good question. You go ninja on them. That's Deja's form of resistance. I like that. All right. So the next thing we want to think about is how we react to various events that happen. And here's the thing. What I'm about to talk about, it can be different for every person. So for example, one person might react, you might have the same event for two people. One person might want to avoid the choice and hide in bed. The other person might be like, no, this is great. I want to fix this, or I want to do it. So this creates a conflict within us. How are we going to react? And when I say conflict, I don't necessarily mean you're going all ninja on people like Deja. I mean that within you, you have to make a choice. And so in psychology, sometimes conflict just refers to making that choice. Okay? So let's talk about the first type of conflict. Approach. Sometimes you have to make a decision between two good choices. You want both things, but you got to make a choice. For example, what movie do we go see at the movie theater? There might be two really good movies out, and you're like, man, I want to see them both, but you can only go to one at a time. So that's an approach conflict. You're happy. You would go towards each. When you think of approach, think of it as something that you would go towards and say, yay, okay, this is good. I'm glad. Ready to tackle it. No. Oh, goodness, Virginia, yes. Yeah, yeah, that's a great one. And we'll talk about where that one could fit in just a second. Yeah, but sometimes, you don't want to be in there in the hospital, right? Because you don't want your grandfather to be hurt, but you fought through it. And that is awesome, Virginia. Way to go handling that exhaustion in that situation. Another type of conflict you might have is approach avoidance. Sometimes you're in a situation where one option is good and the other one isn't, but you can't just dismiss the bad option out of hand. It's not like you can say, well, I don't want to do it, so I'm not going to. You really have to stop and think about it. So, for example, you want to eat cake, but you don't want to gain weight. I mean, it would really be nice if cake was weight-free, but unfortunately, calories, you could. So you have to consider that even if you don't like it. Oh, I'm sorry, Caleb. I'm glad he's in a better place, but I'm sorry that you don't have him anymore. Another type of conflict, avoidance. Sometimes you're in a situation where you don't want to do anything that's in front of you. You probably are saying, why do I have to make this choice? Neither one sounds good, but you have to do it. Like, for example, do your homework or clean the house. Well, some people might not dislike cleaning the house. Some people may not dislike homework, but if you don't like either and you have to choose between them, neither one of them sounds good, right? And the last one, multiple approach, multiple avoidance. When you really have to weigh the pros and cons of two choices. Have you ever been in that situation? Let's make a pros and cons list. Sometimes there's good and there's bad for each, and you really have to weigh it out. You just like them both. So you would be avoidance there, Caleb. You don't want to do homework or clean the house. So for example, do you go to college close to home, meaning you can be near your family, or do you go further away with a larger scholarship? Larger scholarship, that's great for paying, but you don't get to see your family that much. So you have to go back and forth on it. Can anyone think of a situation from your own life that you might fit into a category? So for example, last year, psychology class was 8:30 in the morning. Where would that be for you? If you had to go to psychology class at 8:30 in the morning, where would that be? Approach. You might put AP. Approach avoidance, you could put AP. Avoidance, you could put AV. Or multiple approach, multiple avoidance, you could put MULT. So where would that be for you if you had to go to psychology class at 8:30 in the morning? Trying to make that go away there. There we go. Okay, so avoidance. You don't like class and you don't like the time? I'm just kidding. Charlize, okay, may I ask, what is approach for you, Charlize and Deja, and what is avoidance? Maddie, you say approach. Why would you pick that? And Nathan, you say multiple. Why would you pick that? Yeah. Oh, Virginia, absolutely. You face that on a regular basis. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm glad you take care of your health, Virginia, but I'm sorry you deal with that on a regular basis. That's rough. So for you, hospitals would you say approach avoidance or avoidance, Virginia? So Caleb, you might actually say approach avoidance. You like the class, but you don't want the time. And believe me, I don't either. I feel your pain. Okay, so approach, you like psychology. Avoidance, you don't like the time. By the way, you're not hurting my feelings if you're like, I don't really like the class either. I wouldn't yell at anybody. Okay, Maddie, okay, so you like it now, but if it was 8:30, you'd be done? Okay. Yeah, absolutely, Charlize. You don't want to be tired, but you like getting it done, sure. Yeah, see, Nathan, that would be multiple because you need to go back and forth on it. And this is important to note. What is approach for one person could be avoidance for another, and that's okay. How about this one right here? Do my homework or clean the house? Where would you see that choice? And that's true, Caleb. Maybe you can find a way to work around it. So do my homework or clean the house. Where would you put that? Would you agree with avoidance, or would you put it elsewhere? Caleb's like neither. All right. So Nathan, do you find homework approach but cleaning avoidance? Okay, Virginia. So you recognize the necessity of the hospital, but at the same time, you don't really want to go. Absolutely. I can totally see that. Charlize, it's multiple. So Maddie, you're kind of approach on either. Okay, Sabiran, yeah, you didn't care for the time of 8:30 in the morning, but you like psychology. Yay, that's good. I feel you. Okay, Nathan, interesting. Okay. Yeah, you like Caleb, I feel you. It's like I don't want to do it, but I do like where I live and I like the way things are. Does anybody have what about scholarships? Right, trying to get scholarships. Where would you put that? Like if you're trying to get a scholarship. Approach avoidance, Deja? Oh, Maddie, avoidance. Okay. Caleb, so you're not even, yep, that's true. You may not have to worry about it. Absolutely. So you don't even have to go there or think about it. Some of you put like approach avoidance or approach. What makes you choose what you chose regarding scholarships? Or Charlize, why did you put multiple? And again, no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious. It's a lot of work, right, Deja? I mean, you want the money to go to school, but it's a lot of work. I can see that approach avoidance, absolutely. Oh, wow, Virginia, absolutely. So that gives you that understanding of why you need to go to the hospital and deal with your family's health problems. Absolutely. My goodness. Thank you for sharing. I know sometimes it's not easy. Deja, really, can I get a scholarship for sleeping? That'd be awesome. Caleb's like, I'm good. Okay, so if you apply for scholarships for multiple schools, you might get accepted to at least one. That's definitely approach. Me too, Virginia, I understand. Okay, Charlize, so you really have to look at all those angles, right? Like, where am I going to go to school? Where do I get that scholarship? Absolutely. These are great, you guys. You are doing an awesome job. And it's interesting how we can look at the same event and have different responses. But the thing to really keep in mind here is when you look at a choice, if you're thinking, this is good, I need to do it, this is positive, you're thinking approach because you want to go towards it. If you're thinking, oh, don't make me do that, I don't like that, that sounds awful, you're avoidance because you don't want to go near it. You want to put it off. So remember, when you're thinking about these types of conflicts, ask yourself a simple question. Is it something that the person wants to do? That's approach. Is it something they don't want to do? That's avoidance. Do they really have to think about the pros and cons? That's multiple. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions on this? Sometimes the hardest part is just remembering how it all works. Oh, fabulous. Okay. Well, of course, always let me know if you have questions. All right. So let's talk a little bit about positive versus negative coping strategies for stress, because we all have them, right? This cat, for example, I'm not sure what it's trying to do. What can you do to cope with stress in a positive way? What do you guys think? Pilates, Caleb, is a form of stretching and resistance exercise. So you hold your muscles in certain ways to try to exercise them, but also lengthen them. Okay, meditation, read. These sound good. Counting to 10 or focusing on something calming, music, breathing techniques. Okay, reading and watching anime. No, sounds good to me. So these are some of, you guys nailed this. Very good. Exercise and yoga, Pilates, other forms of exercise. These could also be positive ways to cope. You know, sometimes I get stuck at my computer, and if I haven't worked out in a couple days, it's like my body's almost like vibrating, and I'm like, nope, I got to stop here and I got to do it. I feel better for it. How many of you have someone to talk to? You know, if you feel stressed. Okay, Samir. Oh, Caleb, you look at that. You put it up there. Talking to your friends sometimes, keeping your mind busy. Yeah. How about some negative ways you might cope with stress? Anybody sometimes do things or know of ways that are negative that you might cope?